is warning Democrats to, quote, think twice about using that move. And he is New Hampshire Republican Judd Gregg. He's the ranking member on the Senate Budget Committee. Senator, it's always good to have you with us. Good morning to you.
Thank you, Martha.
You know, this is pretty much the headline everywhere. And President Obama so much as said it at the end of the summit. He said, look, let's put our heads together and try to work something out between Republicans and Democrats. But if we don't, we'll let the election figure it out, meaning we'll go ahead with reconciliation, right?
Well, it sounds that way. What you've got to remember that this is all about passing the gigantic bill that came out of the Senate. That was a $2.5 trillion bill. And it was the largest expansion of the government in the history of our country. And it had the government basically pervading all elements of health care. That bill is stuck in the House. In order to pass it, they've got to buy off a bunch of liberal constituencies in the House. And to get those liberal constituencies to be willing to vote for the big bill, the Senate bill, they're going to do this reconciliation bill, which will have it in a lot of policies which a more liberal bill might have had in it, even though that bill is pretty far to the left. And then they will pass the big bill, send it to the president, he'll sign it, and then this reconciliation bill, which has all the different policies that were needed to get the votes to pass the big bill, will be sent back to the Senate to be passed.
You know, I think a lot of people look at this situation and they felt like health care had sort of gotten away for the time being because jobs, and deficit seem to be what were really important to people. When you ask yourself that question, why are they doing this? What's your answer?
I can't understand why they're doing it because the American people don't want this bill. I mean, this is a terrible piece of legislation. This is going to fundamentally undermine our health care system, in my opinion. But equally important, it's going to explode, literally explode the size of government. And in the end, that's all going to be passed on to our kids in the form of debt. So it's a very bad policy. But they're on this momentum to do it. They feel they have to have this bill in order to fulfill their commitment to their constituencies who are pretty far left. And they have to move in this way of basically moving down a road of a massive expansion of the size of government because that's what they like. They think government creates prosperity, not people. And so I guess that's why they're proceeding in this way. But it's bad policy, and to do it this way is to really railroad the American people and the Congress.
You know, I keep looking back at one thing, and that is how it gets paid for. Now, we've heard that there's going to be $500 billion in cuts in Medicare. Now, two ways that have already been proposed to save that money, which would be to make doctors foot some of the bill. That's already off the table. They've said, oh, well, not the doctors. We're going to fix that for them, so we won't take any Medicare money from them. Then the states would have to pay more Medicare. That would be part of the way to get to this $500 billion in cost savings. Then they said, oh, no, we don't really want to hurt the states either, so we're going to fix that for them as well. But the president looked everybody in the eye at the summit and said, no, this is deficit neutral.
Yeah, well, it's not.
What's that about?
What they've done here is they claim they're going to cut Medicare by $500 billion. It's actually $1 trillion over the 10 years when it's fully implemented. And then they're going to take that money from seniors programs, Medicare. Instead of making Medicare more solvent, they're going to move it over and start two major new initiatives in the entitlement area, radically expanding the size of Medicaid and a brand new entitlement. That's what costs us the $2.5 trillion when it's fully implemented. So that those dollars aren't being used to benefit Medicare. They're being used to create new entitlements. And we all know that in the end, those types of cuts in Medicare aren't going to occur. They have never occurred. And so it's going to end up being an expansion of debt. This is all going to go on the deficit and the debt, in my opinion, in the end, or most of it.
All right. And then I guess the elections will tell what story needs to be told, which is what the president says, you know, will and should happen in November as a result of all of this. Senator Gregg, it's always good to speak to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.